Hello, everybody. This is Sinuhe Montoya and John Case here, coming to you with a brand new podcast that we're starting up. It's called Daily Battlefield Applied.
Mm-hmm. Good morning, everybody.
And that voice, that lovely voice you hear in your ears, that's John Case.
That's me. Good morning, sir. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. Why don't we tell the people here a little bit about, who we are and what this podcast is about?
Hey, you want me to start?
Please.
Okay, well, everybody, as Mr. Sinuhe just introduced, my name is John Case. I am a real estate broker and attorney in San Diego, California. Have been practicing in both fields roughly for about 11 years now. I've been doing this for a little bit of time, venturing into podcast land for, I think this is my second or third time venturing into the world of the interwebs. And I'm excited to share what I've learned over the years in a variety of fields, as well as, provide little anecdotal evidence that hopefully folks can take with them and help themselves kind of speed up their success, or at the very least, find the inspiration to continue going.
So I appreciate you sharing. Let me ask you this. What made you want to give this another go?
Okay, should we delve into, so to give folks an idea, this is my third go around at this. I think if you were to scour the internet, you'll find me on a variety of other platforms or shows, and that the reason, to answer your question directly, is because I have yet to find my home. I believe that I have good things to say. I believe that as you and I have chatted about, as a reason, the reason this whole thing even came about, right? Our conversations over the years dealing with entrepreneurship, being business owners, the trials and tribulations that one goes through in this space. And, after a while, we felt as though, look, we have some good things to share. Hopefully the audience feels likewise. And, this is another opportunity to give it a go.
I appreciate you sharing. That was really, more for me to hear again, and also for the audience to understand, because you mentioned this is your third go. So that tells me, John, that you don't quit.
I don't quit. Can't quit. Can't stop, won't stop.
I love it. What, I don't remember. Was it Thomas Edison? Correct me if I'm wrong. When you figure out that when something doesn't work, it's not that you failed, it's that you learned how not to do it.
Right. I think that's correct. I think he said something akin to, he didn't fail with the electric light bulb. He just found 10,000 ways that it couldn't be done, right? Until he found the correct way to execute his vision. So I guess segging into, without getting too deep into things, that's probably motto number one in entrepreneurship, is that if you really are committed to whatever it is that you're building, you can't give up. Inevitably, things are going to come your way that are going to challenge you, that are going to be difficult to overcome, that nothing comes easy, and especially not in business world. But persistence and continuing to follow your vision, very important. Actually, I would say it's kind of the foundation upon which everything else is built.
I would agree. So let me give the audience here a little bit of an understanding about me, very briefly. As I mentioned, my name is Sinuhe Montoya. I am a 5+ year, I can do it on one hand, 5+ year entrepreneur. I've been in business for over 5 years. I'm really proud of myself.
We're really proud of you too, buddy.
No, thanks. I really appreciate that. My career has spanned the last 10 years just about in the solar and roofing industry. And I decided I want to start a business because, well, for a multitude of reasons that I won't get into now for the sake of time. We'll get into those at a later time, with the why behind us. But that's, what I am doing right now. I'm a business owner for a company called DroneQuote. If you, like you just mentioned earlier, if you do any research on DroneQuote or on Sinuhe Montoya online, you will see my mug. I'm sorry ahead of time. People have told me I'm funny, so I got that going for me. And the reason why I wanted to do this is because, and why the podcast is called Daily Battlefield Applied, is because being an entrepreneur or being a business owner is extremely difficult. I've been to Iraq twice, two times. And both times people were shooting at us, RPGs were flying, bombs were going off. And while that was extremely difficult in its own way, I find entrepreneurship to be much more difficult than that, because at least in the military, when things were going sideways, I could turn to somebody else who signed up to do this with me and ask them for help, ask them to fire back, ask them for an answer on a question. I didn't have a limit on ammunition. We would replenish. And although it was very difficult and very violent, compared to entrepreneurship, I don't have somebody to turn to the right or to the left to say, hey, what do I do now? And what I would consider ammo now, being revenue or capital, I should say, is not unlimited. So I have to count my bullets, if you will, my capital very carefully to make sure that I'm spending it in the right way. But going back to the point, entrepreneurship, business ownership is, I think, harder than diamonds.
Well, I think there's an ebb and flow, because you inevitably run up on challenges, as I alluded to a little earlier. The whole process is a process in and of itself, right? You have to learn how to run a business. You have to learn how to be a business owner. You have to learn how to maneuver in this space, how to get folks to maybe see things from your perspective, to be willing to invest in you, to be willing to want to be part of your success. And so that is a daily activity that takes place every single day. You have to be inching forward every single day. You have to be moving things along. Otherwise, you start to go backwards. So for me, the name Daily Battlefield Applied really encapsulates the mentality that you have to take with regards to approaching every single day and trying to win the day. Every single day, trying to get the most that you can out of the day. And I think if you take that approach of one day at a time, over time, you can create great things.
Yeah, to that point, right? And to why I feel that listeners out there should tune in is because you and I'll speak for myself, actually, I go through daily battles myself, like mental struggles that get in my way of accomplishing what I want to accomplish, and that make my goal seeking very difficult. And I would be a liar if I told you that I don't sometimes think of like giving up, actually,
Yeah.
So it makes me happy to be able to give my insight to others who are considering entrepreneurship, business ownership, or who are already in it, and who may feel alone in the process. You may be alone as a founder, as I am, right? But I'm not alone in the process, because I have somebody like you to turn to for help. Really, that's what it is, help. I've called you many a times before, like, man, listen, I feel like crap. I'm a loser. I suck at life. I should kill myself. No, I'm just kidding. The latter point, I'm just kidding. But you hear me say that all the time. I'm just kidding. But it's that difficult. It's that difficult that you need somebody to turn to, right? You need somebody to call. And there's a lot of founders out there, business owners, who unfortunately don't have that.
Right.
And I want to be able to be a combined, you and I, now I speak for both of us, we want to be able to share this with others so that they know, hey, we get it. It's very difficult. This is what we go through, and this is how we've overcome it. And a lot of what this podcast is going to be about is, showing you how we've overcome it.
Well, and part of, in my mind anyway, the way that this originated was showing, to use some kind of an example, is how the sausage is made. I tend to find that in this space, there's a lot of folks who are already accomplished, who have a lot of accolades to their names, who come on and try to give you their perspective as to how they were able to reach those heights. But I often find that because they're so far removed from where they started, it's hard for folks to put themselves in their shoes of how they were able to to accomplish their goals and to kind of grow their business and get to those heights. So the real motivation for me behind this was to give folks from a ground up. We're just starting, like you said, you're 5 years in. I've been doing this for about 10 years, relatively early on, if you will, as far as, you know, business acumen. And so part of what we would like to do, and I think like I speak for both of us from when we were talking about putting this together, is to give folks some of those nuggets, some of those ideas, some of those strategies that we found along the way that have helped us get to where we are, and hopefully will continue to help us reach new and higher goals.
You know, I like what you're saying there, because the newer and higher goals part, I like that, because, you know, being a business owner, it could be easy to get stuck in the rut of the day-to-day minutia, the fine details of what needs to happen. And oftentimes, if you either are not disciplined enough or haven't thought of doing so, of putting together a clear path of how to get to your goals, then you feel like you're turning the wrench. But have you ever turned a wrench where you had a bolt on one side and then the wrench side on another of the screw, and you're turning it, but because you didn't hold down the bolt on the other side, it's just turning.
It's just turning, right? Exactly.
And you're like, yeah, I'm turning the wrench, and you don't notice that it's not tightening.
It's not doing anything. Correct.
It's not.
Yeah. You're spinning your wheels, if you will. Yeah.
Yeah, you're doing the action of turning the wrench, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and I have been, you know, guilty, if you will, of having that happen to me, where I am doing work and I'm like, at the end of the day, like, all right, I put in a whole day's work. And then I look at, what did I really do? It was busy work where I wasn't holding down the bolt on the other side. I was just going through the actions, and it doesn't really amount to much. So, you know, being mindful of the bigger picture or somebody else's perspective to help you get a focus on the bigger picture is super critical. And if you don't have either a resource such as podcasts, because there's multiple podcasts out there that can be very beneficial, or even better, some personal relation like you and I have, where we can turn to one another and you know, smoke out the issues or the details or get the other perspective, then it's really easy to fall into the groove and not have any progress being made. Well, I mean, I got to tell you, when I first started my business, 2017, I left a very high paying job, and I thought to myself that in 6 months, I would have another high paying job.
Let me ask you, before you even get too far into that, why quit? If you're there, and it sounds like, I mean, from our conversations, it sounds like you were doing quite well and you were very successful. What's the point of putting yourself through this?
So there's two reasons why, right? I always seek upward mobility in anything I do. And I know my worth. All right. I may talk down to myself a lot, and you hear me do so. And
you shouldn't, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, don't do that.
Horrible habit. I think
we're working on it.
Akin to smoking cigarettes. And if you smoke, no offense or anything, but you know, it's obviously not good for you. So I know my worth. And at the company I used to work at, I was a top performer, and I kept trying to get promoted, and they kept turning me down. And it was really frustrating, because I'm like, listen, guys, I know my worth and I know what I could bring to the table at a higher level. And they weren't having it. So I think 2 or 3 times I got denied promotions, while at the same time, you know, I was going out and, you know, doing the sales that I was doing, and I was seeing how much money I was making this company. And not only that, I coupled that with the experience of talking to my clientele, who oftentimes were homeowners in, you know, nice areas like Rancho Santa Fe, San Diego area, Del Mar, Encinitas. And I'd walk into these $3-4 million houses. And whenever I had the opportunity to speak to that kind of successful person, it was never about the sale that I was trying to make. It was always about, can you tell me more about yourself, Mr. Client, and tell me what led you to be so successful? And if there's one thing that people like to do, as you will learn if you listen to or read How to Win Friends and Influence People, which I strongly encourage you do at least once a year, people like to talk about themselves. And these people accepted these open-ended questions, and they would tell me, and oftentimes they would say, I'm a business owner. So I started noticing that these people were extremely successful, at least to the societal standard of income.
Money, right? Exactly. If we're using money as a measure, right, as a measuring stick.
That's right. And that's a whole other conversation there.
Right. Because there's all kinds of value that you could bring, right? Emotional value, like you said, societal value.
Yep.
So on and so forth. But
so I was noticing that they were saying the same thing, business ownership, and I kept getting denied for promotion, and I was a top performer, and I would consider myself still a top performer. And I happened to innovate something rather well in the industry, the solar and roofing industry, by using drones. That's why my company is called DroneQuote, as you can see on the hat and the sign behind me. And I said, you know what, man, I know my worth. I'm going to go do it. And so I did. That was really the two reasons there as the impetus for my wanting to be a business owner. But I've always been like that. Even as a little kid, I used to sell stuff. I've always had that entrepreneurial bug.
Well, it's funny. I find it interesting because you did serve in the Army, and that's kind of the sort of the antithesis of an entrepreneur in the sense of you're very much have to fall in line, follow orders. Although I guess it prepares you for the outside world once you get out. But I find that sometimes that you could get used to that style or approach of, okay, I'm just going to stay within the organization. I'm going to do as I'm told. I'm going to, I'm already successful. Why rock the ship, if you will? Especially with something, because there's no guarantee that your business is going to work, right? I think statistically, even statistically, the fact that you're made it to 5 years, I think should be commended. Most business, I think 50% of new businesses fail within the first 5 years, and then from there, the number gets even more and more drastic as far as how many businesses actually end up making it into the future. So the fact that you've been able to make it this long in an industry by providing a unique take on kind of an old school type of sale, I think is very commendable. And I'm curious if maybe that foundational piece of being in the Army played a role in sort of ultimately helping you, like you said, discover your worth and be willing to fight for it.
So, I'm going to answer that question, or if you will, by mentioning, you remember the Contra code, up, up, down, down?
Yeah.
Infinite lives, I think it was. So that's a cheat
30
code,
lives,
right?
30 lives.
30
yes.
lives? Okay.
Yeah, 30.
So that's a cheat code.
Yeah.
And there's a very common saying that there's no shortcut to success. So I agree with that, with one caveat. The military is, in fact, a shortcut to success in life. The military is a shortcut, unless you join the Air Force, in which case you're a bum. I'm just kidding, all you Air Force people out there.
Here we go. Lost half the audience. Look at that. Terrible.
Nah, not half the audience. They're not that smart.
Here we go. Here we just keep going.
I'm just kidding. I keep crapping on the Air Force, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I can't help it. It's just in my nature. No, but all jokes aside, even the Air Force, the military is a shortcut to success because it teaches you so many disciplines in life. One of them being mission comes first, always. And you don't stop until you get your mission accomplished, or you persevere one way or another. There's a lot of additional things about the military that really emphasize that, but the military will teach you so many disciplines in life that I consider it a shortcut.
Gotcha. Okay. That's really, that's good. That's good. I've always said I see great value in the service. To your point, especially if you're younger and you don't really have either a clear path. Some people, or not that everybody has a clear path, but sometimes there are those folks who are like, I want to be a doctor. Ever since I was like 1 or 2, I can remember wanting to be a doctor, kind of thing. Or you get out of high school and you don't really have a true guide of where you want to go. I do think that the military, any branch, can provide you, to your point, with a set of skills that are transferable, especially if you go with it of the approach of trying to get something out of it, as opposed to feeling like you're being forced to partake in it. If you really look at it as a great opportunity to learn and a great opportunity to take advantage of the variety of programs that I'm sure are available to you to gain skills that are applicable in the real world, I think it's a great vehicle, to your point, to kind of catapult yourself into success once you get out of the service.
100%. And not only that, they pay for your college. They help you buy a house, and that's a path to success, right? But path to building wealth. They help you buy a house. Having owned a house, it's helped me significantly in my business ownership. And I won't get into that for the sake of time, but that played a significant part. And there was a lot of resources available to me as a business owner for having been in the military. So, I can keep going on that, but I won't, again, for the sake of time. So I just want to recap, at least on my end here, that for those of you who grace us with your attention over these podcasts being about 15, 20 minutes long, we want to keep it short to make it easy to digest. I would tell you that we're going to continue putting out these podcasts because I want to be a help that perhaps I didn't have throughout my entrepreneurship career. And I did have a lot of help, but there's times when I felt alone and like I didn't know what I should be doing or how to do it or what have you. And that's just par for the course with entrepreneurship. But I definitely want to be a resource for others out there. And I believe that, the story that I bring to the table and the disciplines that I could share with you and the things that I've learned can help you along the way. And we plan on being as helpful as possible for all of you guys out there.
And if I can piggyback off that, I think ideally, for me, my mind, the goal of this is to create a community, because here's the reality. We don't have all the answers. Heck, we've been doing this for a while, but this thing is ever evolving and ever changing. And so if we could create a community of like-minded folks who can share information, who can help support each other. And at the end of the day, there's so much negative stuff out there that if we can provide just a little bit of positivity, a little bit of inspiration, and a little bit of know-how to help you keep going along in your journey, that's exactly what we are trying to do.
And I would say not only negative stuff, but misdirection or misfocus. When you start a business, I naively thought, oh, this is going to be a cakewalk. I'm going to earn a lot of money right away. It's going to be great. And oftentimes you think that yourself. That's a really easy trap to fall into. But you also see what, society puts out there on social media and people standing in front of their, vehicles or houses. And you think, oh, that's where I need to be. And again, traps that you fall into. So I want to help people be steered in the right direction so that they can measure success according to what is relative to them and what is reasonable.
Absolutely.
So anyhow, you guys, really appreciate your being the audience today. I look forward to many more podcasts.
Yes.
And I think unless there's anything else, baby, until next time.
Guys, thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you on the next one.
Take care.